saw a shadow. That's all I saw.
No,
But the police body cameras capture the moments after the caller, Chasey Pointer,
That's my husband's phone on me.
what's his name?
Robert.
Calm down.
Robert Pointer.
Police body cameras record the seconds following Chasey Pointer's 911 call. "God, my husband went to help me," she said. "He went to the back around the corner and got shot in the head. That's why he just breathed for me and hasn't on me." Robert, this is Chasey Pointer, also known as Rob Potter. In 2016, at the age of 29,
I heard a shot, and the Jeep started rolling, and I didn't see anything. And I
she had been married for 7 years to Bob Pointer, who was 18 years her senior. On September 9th, she met Bob on a muddy back road in an isolated and dark place. Only one of them would survive the encounter, but who was responsible for Bob's untimely death? This is the chilling case of Chasey and Bob Pointer. Chasey claimed her husband had been killed at random. What actually happened was that I heard a shot, the jeans started rolling, and all I saw was a shadow. However, the police were suspicious. Was she really just an innocent witness to a horrible crime, a wife traumatized by her husband's murder? Bob, whose real name was Robert Pointer, was a firefighter. Though standing tall and commanding, the 47-year-old was described as easygoing and non-aggressive. After almost 20 years of service, he had risen to the rank of captain and was ready for Hurricane Katrina in 2005. He took part in the relief work. He was married once and had 2 kids. Bob's first marriage to Amy, his high school sweetheart, lasted 19 years until it started to fall apart when Bob started dating Chasey. Mormon Tyler, Texas is where Chasey was born and reared. Her passion was baking, but she also worked as a surgical assistant and implant coordinator in a dental facility. Chasey owned Fabulously Frosted, a cake decorating company. Despite the 18-year-old gap, she and the married Bob clicked right away when they met through a mutual friend. He started to put more of his focus on this 20-year-old at the expense of his current marriage. Bob's daughter found out that he owned 2 cell phones. Chasey stated that at the time, she was unaware that Amy and Bob were still together. He was, as far as I knew, split apart. But according to a buddy of Bob's who works as a firefighter, Amy went after him. In December 2007, they were united. After divorcing Amy, 40-year-old Bob wed 22-year-old Chasey. After 2 years, they moved to Royce City, Chasey's hometown, and had a daughter named Addison. Bob worked in the affluent and serene University Park neighborhood. Even though it was close to home, late on September 9, 2016, things took a bad turn for him and his marriage to Chasey. Chasey, 29, drove her car down a country road 7 years into their marriage. That's where Bob met her, and the couple's phone call to 911 was the last thing anyone heard from them. She's really out of breath and pinging on Keener at 2,595. She makes a running sound. The caller's panicked breathing were the only sound audible. The only thing the operators could do was send first responders to the scene and wait, without knowing what was going on. It was a rural area, so these first responders had no idea what kind of scene they were entering. The lane was desolate and dark, with tractor ruts and fire tracks scattered throughout. At first, it seemed odd that anyone would drive on this road if they weren't farmers. The first responder noticed Chasey Pointer, who was barefoot and covered in mud. "What's going on? My husband went to help me. My Jeep is stuck in the back around the corner. He's been shot in the head. Please help," she pleaded, appearing to be insane with fear. When an ambulance came on the scene, paramedics gave her oxygen and noticed that her garments had bloodstains on them that covered her legs and shoulder, which led us to wonder what had happened. After hearing a shot, the Jeep began to roll. I didn't see anything at first, but then I saw a shadow. Later that night, when investigators discovered Chasey's Jeep, they discovered the silhouette of an already deceased man inside, Bob Pointer, Chasey's husband. The 47-year-old firefighter was shot in the head, but there was no indication of a struggle. In fact, the situation appeared to confirm the young mother's account to the first responders, in which she described her husband being murdered by an unknown assailant who had emerged from the shadows and returned to the ambulance. "We've been having troubles, and I was coming to beat him at the Jack in Box so we could talk," Chasey told the police, revealing details about her relationship that began to cast doubt on the account that had been given. Officers were informed by Chasey that her marriage to Bob had been failing for some time, and that she shouldn't have been concentrating on marital harmony when her spouse had recently been dead. Chasey continued by explaining that she and Bob had made plans to get together at a fast food restaurant called Jack in the Box, to discuss their problematic marriage. While driving there, she texted him to let him know that she was 3 meters away. The police asked Chasey why she had taken the track, which was primarily meant for farmers to access their fields and was poorly lit for driving at night. She replied that she had missed her turn to meet him at the jacket box. I don't take this rug, right? What made you come down this one? I missed my last one. Oh, you did? Yeah, okay, so I've never been on this road before, now stuck on this desolate country road, she said. Being a firefighter, he was accustomed to saving lives. Bob got in his truck and headed for the place Chasey had told him about. But his vehicle couldn't make it all the way to her Jeep because of the uneven road and large ruts. Bob exited his car and walked up to his wife's Jeep. While Bob got into the Jeep and attempted to reverse it, Chasey stood by the side of the road. She heard the gunfire at that point. Her return to the Jeep was swift. After getting shot, Bob lost control of the automobile and it began to roll slowly down the road. Chasey had his head in his hands. She was covered in blood because she told the cops. Calling his name, she got the car moving, but Bob had already passed away. Bob B. was shot in the right temple, and it was difficult to tell if the gunman had fired from in front of the car or behind it because he had left no physical evidence. As a result, the police had to rely heavily on Chasey's account of what she saw at the scene. She claimed to have seen a man who was taller than she was and was wearing dark clothing. Did you see a gun, rifle, or anything similar in his hands? Was Chasey telling the truth, or was she hiding something? I was young and foolish when we got married, and I didn't want to be married again. Why do you guys fight over my daughter? He's trying to take my daughter away from me. We had a lot of problems in our marriage, and although she claimed that her husband had been killed by an unknown gunman, it was becoming uncannily obvious that Chasey had a motive for Bob's murder. Chasey and Bob had fallen in love 3 years into their marriage, but they also slept in different bedrooms, and Chasey thought Bob was still in love with his first wife. She also claimed that Bob had a temper, low testosterone, and was taking medication to boost it, which Chasey claimed led to violent outbursts. There were times when he would just grab me by the hair and throw me against the wall. Bob's family and his first wife denied that he could harm anyone, including Chasey disputed Natalie's claim that she had never witnessed Bob turning violent throughout her 6 months of living with him, when she was 16. They have never truly shown me any affection from the start. The younger girl who entered and took their father was me. Because Bob had a significant role in the community as a fire captain, which came with his employment, Chasey claimed she never told anybody about the way he treated her. Instead, a few years into their marriage, she started looking for approval from other sources. Chase started going out more after losing 104 pounds. At this point, Chasey's computer included evidence that her and Natalie Bob's teenage daughter had been having conversations with other guys. Bob regularly put in long nights at the firehouse, which allowed Chase plenty of opportunity to go out and meet men, while Natalie and her 4-year-old half-sister were left alone at home. After Natalie eventually came clean to her father about the affair, he prepared the divorce documents but never filed them. He had no desire to split up his family once more. Now that Bob was doubting Chasey, he put a security camera by the front door to capture her in the act. Additionally, 12 days prior to his death, one of Chasey's admirers rang the doorstep. Chasey hurried to respond, telling him he had to head out right away, but it was too late because B had alerted the police. 2 distinct images of Bob and Chasey were beginning to appear. The question was not whether Pointer's marriage had been stressed to the point of breakdown, or whether Bob had been a violent and distant spouse, but rather which tale was real. Unfaithful or not, there was no denying that despite Chasey's denials, their relationship's collapse was partly caused by Bob's unexplained death. A week prior to his passing, the couple had traveled to Mexico in an attempt to patch things up, but upon their return, Bob informed a colleague that the marriage had failed miserably, stating, "I just can't do this anymore." This was on Wednesday, September 7th, and it was Friday, September 9th. Bob was killed. Chasey mentioned that she had spent the evening at a friend's place before heading to the restaurant where Bob was waiting for her. Michael Garza's house was next door. Is there a romantic relationship between you and Michael Garza? You're in a partnership. Yes. Since that same summer, she had been in a relationship with Michael Garza. The 37-year-old Michael Garza was a truck driver whom I met on Facebook. Although he had served a year in jail in 2000s for using a car without authorization, he had no history of violence. Even yet, authorities remained dubious if Bob's murderer had been an unidentified stranger. Why did the murderer let Chasey to escape unharmed, as she claimed? She may have known the murderer, based on evidence that contradicted her account. She was shoved by the cops during questioning. "You seem like a bunch of jerks to me." "I have no idea who fired the shot. The issue is that I believe you do." "Who shot Robert 2 hours into Chasey's story?" "Who killed your husband? Please say that again louder for me." There could only be one Mikey. Michael Garrett, Chasey's lover, had killed her husband and was on the verge of being charged with a crime as well. Chasey has since revised her account. "I just wanted him to understand what it's like to be constantly harassed, not that I wanted to." She revealed that it was her intention for Garza to frighten Bob into abandoning her. According to the tale, she didn't mean for Bob to suffer any injuries, and she was unaware that Garza had brought a shotgun. Garza claimed that she could never have predicted what he had planned to do, but it was his idea to entice Bob to the isolated country road. Together, they headed there, and before she could stop Bob, she requested him to come fetch her. Bob was slain by Garza. Not only did Garza have no violent past, but the police had further reason to doubt this account. Bob had agreed to designate Chasey as the principal beneficiary of his $685,000 life insurance policy just a few months prior. He had messaged a divorce lawyer on Facebook the day before he passed away, September 8, saying, "I'm thinking of a surprise attack. As a result of this attack, their daughter was taken away, and their home was up for sale." Chasey had to stop him from doing this. By telling her partners that Bob, the partner seen on camera, was abusive, she tried to win their sympathy. Brad Golden was also questioned. "Man, this gal was really skilled at what she did. She frequently confided in me that Robert mistreated her." She emailed Danny Mims, her third lover, 8 days before to the murder, wishing that Bob would run out of air and catch fire. "I'm not a magician," Mims retorted. "Well, I need one," Chasey texted back. With the exception of Michael Garza, all of these lovers declined to carry out her wish to have her husband killed. She warned Garza via text that he would eventually come after her when she was in Mexico. Garza answered via FM. She texted Garza the day before the murder saying, "I've made up my mind," and Bob responded, "No, I will shoot that dude." There was growing suspicion that Chasey had orchestrated the September 10th murder herself. The 29-year-old widow was taken into custody in court the day following Bob's death. Jurors watched police body cam footage and questioning tapes, but she did not take the stand. There was one last instant of incrimination on these tapes. With her head in her hands, Chasey was alone herself in the interview room. Michael Garza received a sentence of 99 years in jail with a April 30th, 2024 parole possibility. A murder conviction was obtained for Chasey Pointer too,